Bonjour, Kinamagi and NA Ireland Indishnikas, and welcome to today's math review lesson. Today's lesson, operations with decimals. All right, let's begin with the adding and subtracting portion of this. And let's just pick a problem like 2.53 plus 1.7. There is one key thing to remember, and that is to line up your decimal points. That'll be the key detail. So let's do an addition one. You can see that I've lined up my decimal points. I put it down there before I even started so I wouldn't forget. This works only with horizontal, which means up and down. If I was going 2.53 plus 1.7, it would not work. So let's do an addition. 3 plus 0 is 3. 5 plus 7 is 12. I put a 2 here. I regroup the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 1 is 4. And I got 4.23. Simple. Once I had the decimal points, it was simple addition. Well, let's take and remove these numbers. And turn it into subtraction. If I put my decimal point first, it's lined up again. 3 minus 0 is 3. I can't do 5 minus 7, so I will regroup. I have a 1. So that 1 becomes 10 tenths, so I have 15 tenths. Minus 8 or 7 is 8. 1 and 1 is 0. So now I have an answer of 0.83. Again, the key part is just line up your numbers, line up your decimal points. So if I had a problem like plus 1.50 or 2, one thing I could do to help line up my decimal points is annex a 0. And then I keep it lined up. That'll be one way you can remember. Now let's look at multiplication. 2.4 times 2. Begin by using my standard algorithm. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 2 is 4. My next step, though, is to figure out how many digits are after the decimal point. And there's my decimal point right there. There's one digit. So then I'm going to have my decimal before with one digit after it. So now I have 4.8. If you didn't want to draw, you could start at the end and go back that number of spaces, which in this case was 1. Let's try another one. 2.6 times 2.2. So I've start out standard algorithm. 2 times 6 is 12. Regroup the 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Now this 2 does not represent 2. It represents a 20 because right now we're not even worried about decimals. So I'm going to put a 0 here, as you always should. And again, this is a review of our standard algorithm. And I'm going to get the same numbers now. 2 times 6 is 12. I have my 1 regrouped already. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I add, and I apologize for that line here. See if we can't fix that one up just a bit. So 2, 7, and 5. Now I have to figure out how many decimal points. There's 1, 2, so I got 2 digits after my decimal point. Get the color I want here, which I'm struggling with. So there's 2 digits, so 1 and 2, 5.72. I have 2 digits after my decimal point. Otherwise, it's standard multiplication as with whole numbers. Division does present us a few challenges. So let's go 2 into 5.2. If you have a whole number for a divisor, and that's the part that's outside, then you can just simply line up your decimal point. 2 goes into 5 twice. Multiply, 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract, 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 is less than 2, I bring down my 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. I subtract, I get a 0. My answer is 2.6 or 2 6/10. Again, we're back in here with lining up those decimal points. Very straightforward. And again, if you noticed, we were reviewing the standard algorithm, and we'll do that again. So now let's put 1.2 into 4.92. When you have a problem with it, when you have these digits here, after the decimal point, I need to move my decimal point one spot. And I do that by multiplying both by 10. So 1.2 by 10 is 12. 4.92 will give us 49. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my decimal point up here in red. And now I'm going to do 49.2 divided by 12. 12 goes into 49 4 times. That's 4 times 8 is 48. I put my 48 and I subtract, I get a 1. 1 is less than 12. I bring down, I get a 12. 12 goes into 12 once. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract, I get a 0. My final answer is 4.1. So my decimal moved over one spot and then I wrote it up there. But I have to move it in the dividend the same number of spots I moved it in the divisor. So I just count the spots and I move. You'll have an assignment today that will be found in the Google Classroom. So I'd like you to go ahead, engage with that, and then let me know if you have any questions. Have a minute, Gichigat, Minwa, Pamapi.